take season.
What up, what up? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hot Take Season, where these hot takes are rated E for everybody. I'm your host, Mia Me, alongside Bezo. What's good with you, Bees?
Hey, what's going on, me? I'm glad I'm here. Thanks for the invite.
Glad to have you. So, kind of a special announcement. Bees is going to be joining us going forward as a co-host of Hot Take Season. So, stick around and look for more Bees, especially with this NFL season kicking off. Glad to have you on board.
I'm always I welcome it, and I'm glad you thought of me and brought me on here.
Of
So
course,
let's get to it.
Of course. So, our special guest for this segment is the host of CFO, which stands for Cowboys Fans Only on YouTube. He's with ESPN in Kansas City. He is also, let me get it right. He is also a credentialed NFL and Dallas Cowboys Draft Analyst, Mr. Jordan Tucker, J Tuck, as he goes by. Welcome to the show.
Hey, appreciate the intro. Thanks for y'all both having me. I'm excited. Football season is days away, and I keep saying it lightly, right? Because football season actually is tomorrow, but our season is on Sunday. So being in Kansas City, I'm kind of tired because a lot of people, out in Kansas City had the red on for Red Wednesday and everything, and I'm just like, man, football season don't start until Sunday, but I'm excited to get some
that's
football
when it get real.
Exactly.
That's when it get real. So, J Tuck, if you could just give us a little background, leading up to where you are now in the sports media industry.
Yeah. So, Mia, you've been following me for quite some time. So, my whole content creation kind of journey started in 2020 during the pandemic. We were all kind of locked in, didn't have anything to do. And salute to my guy, Skywalker Steele. He does amazing work in the Cowboys community. He was like, man, you start a YouTube channel. Like, man, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing it. But during 2020, I had nothing but time. So one night he invited me on his show, and I sat down there and talked just on my laptop for about 2 hours. And everybody in the chat was like, where's his channel? Where's his channel? I love this. And so it's like, all right, I started my channel. So, it's a huge blessing to kind of see the growth I've had in what this is my 4th season covering. To be able to cover the Super Bowl and talk to Joe Burrow, to the NFL draft, and all sorts of things. Dez Bryant, like my favorite player, to be playing Madden with him, even though I got cheated the other night. Like, it's a very surreal feeling and a blessing. And so, I tell a lot of people, what really makes me is just I'm just a fan first. Even though I do Cowboys coverage or draft coverage or football coverage, I bleed Dallas Cowboys football just like everybody else on this channel and everyone who else is listening. So I'll be there pretty much every home game, and I'm not going to be, viewed as a media personality. Y'all going to see me standing up, screaming, all sorts of stuff, just like the fans. And so I think what's making me kind of unique is I'm bridging the gap between the fans and media, which is kind of, it's something I've always wanted to do, just never had the courage until 2020. And now I'm here.
Love it, love it. Again, I have followed your journey along the way, and it's a beautiful thing to see people, who you follow starting early out, and then they flourish into something like this. So congratulations on your success thus far. And you guys be sure to tune in to Cowboys Fans Only on YouTube. And if you are in the Kansas City area, please tune in to J Tuck on ESPN Radio. We're going to kick off with 2 games just to kind of get us warmed up and into the groove of things. So the first one B came up with, rank them. We want your top 5 NFC quarterbacks.
All right. So ranking. So top 5, I would go with Dak Prescott, number 1. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's Eagles fans listening and say, oh, he's just being a homer, but I'm not. And I feel like Jalen Hurts had an incredible season last year. But we've always seen it kind of spike, right? We've seen numerous instances, right? We've seen, the RG3 spike and he kind of fell off the map, and Cam Newton kind of spiked and fell off the map. And so, what I want to see from Jalen Hurts is, can he do it on a consistent basis? And we haven't seen that as of yet, because coming into the season last year, people didn't even know Jalen Hurts was capable to be the quarterback of the Eagles. I mean, they were trying to trade for Russell Wilson. They want to be honest. So, I got Dak Prescott because I feel like he's done it on a more consistent basis, and he's been trending upwards regardless of what people are saying. So I got Dak, Jalen Hurts, Then I would probably go Kirk Cousins at 3. Ooh, 4 and 5. It gets a little difficult because I feel like Justin Fields this year, with the weapons that they're putting around him in Chicago, will emerge. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Fields at 4, and then you can possibly consider Daniel Jones. Yeah, maybe Daniel Jones. Yeah, I'll go with Dan. So I'll go with Dak, Hurts, Cousins, Fields, and I'll be nice to Daniel Jones. That'll be my ranking in my top 5.
What you thinking, Bees?
I'm gonna roll with him with Dak. Um, Hurts. I can go 1A, Dak and Hurts. Just off of what Hurts showed last season, but I do have the same sentiment as him to see him do it consistently. Because, like he said, there was a ton of questions with Hurts coming into the season last. I put Jared Goff 3 and new running back, what's his name, Jameer. I just think they have a ton of weapons, and I think Dan Campbell's actually rejuvenated his career. And then 4 and 5 quarterback situation is so terrible to me when I look at it from most teams in the NFL. According this year is like ridiculously low expectations at the quarterback position outside of maybe 8 or 9 through the whole, both conferences. So I can roll with 4 and 5 where he said I can deal with that, but I would throw golf in there definitely.
Yeah.
Instead of Kirk Cousins. I just know Kirk Cousins is an accident waiting to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of would like to throw Stafford in the mix. I think he's more of that complete veteran quarterback that people could use. And so yeah, I think Stafford would definitely make my list. Of course, I'd roll with Dak and Hurts as 1 and 2. Maybe Stafford at 3. I do agree with Justin Fields. I think he's coming into his own. You just see the amount of production that he had from year 1 to year 2 with more playing time. And then maybe Geno at 5.
It's kind of good to know that at least we got rid of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. At least those two are not in the conversation no more. So it feels a lot better.
True. All right. So last game. Name that Cowboys trivia. We've got 3 players, and I'm going to give you like 3 hints for each player and see if you can guess who this player is. Now, this is difficult because just knowing you know everything Cowboys already as it is. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. I feel like he's going to get everything at the first hint. But we'll give it a shot and see, because I'm pretty sure some of these listeners may need these hints themselves. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
All right. First player is a former Dallas Cowboys defensive tackle. He is in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. He is known for quite a few blunders over his Cowboys years, one being on a Thanksgiving game against the Dolphins, where a field goal was blocked by the Dolphins. A Dolphins field goal was blocked. This player touched the ball but did not maintain possession and scored, so the Dolphins got the ball back, re-kicked it, and they won the game. Now, this player also fumbled the ball in the Super Bowl, celebrated too early to score, and the ball was knocked out of his hand before he crossed the goal line. Who you got?
And another interesting nugget about this player, we played for the same college team at Emporia State University here in Kansas. So I'm going with Leon Lett.
Yep, you got it. All
Got
right.
to get that one. His
Yeah,
name
you got
on the
to.
wall
Correct.
everywhere.
All right, player number 2. He is a 5-time Pro Bowler. He was engaged to a member of Destiny's Child. And he was on a show here in Texas called Storage Wars, where people would bid on storage units to people who hadn't paid their storage bill, and find, different unique antique items that they could then sell for a profit. Who you got?
So I didn't know about the TV show, but I'm going with Roy Williams, safety.
You got it.
Remember, he was with Kelly Rowland, and
Got
they
it.
did MTV Cribs, and
Killing it. You killing it. I see. I was going to throw out the horse collar tackle rule, and I was like, too much.
right.
All
Yeah,
right.
giveaway.
Player number 3. He played in Dallas for 4 years. In high school, he played quarterback, wide receiver, and DB. He is a 2011 Jim Thorpe Award winner in college.
So he played 4 years. So he just played 4, then he left, right?
Mm-hmm.
2011. Now we're stumped. I'm gonna pass this one. I'm gonna phone a friend.
You don't phone a friend?
I'm trying to think.
Don't phone me, so I'm stumped over here myself.
He played cornerback.
Played cornerback
For Dallas.
2011.
I'm trying to think. 4 years. 2011. So
yeah, he was in college in 2011 where he won the Jim Thorpe Award.
That's too old for Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
Byron Jones?
Close. He came before Byron, so it's Mo Claiborne.
Or Claiborne. Oh, okay. That's what I was
Oh, man.
Maybe around that time. Yeah.
I had no idea he played wide receiver, quarterback, and DB in high school.
That threw me completely off.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
had to get one in there.
We don't speak on that pick. We don't speak on that pick in Dallas anyway. Erase that one for a while.
All right, so let's get into your draft takeaways from this past draft. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I like the way the Cowboys handled their business in this draft. Going Mozzie Smith, I know a lot of people were kind of scratching their head. But if you go back to what happened last year, it was just the Cowboys could not stop the run, especially in the late season when it was needed the most. So, I feel like Mozzie Smith was an instant impact. And I know a lot of people question, was he worth a first-round pick? But sometimes you got to get what you need, right? You go to the grocery store, and listen, the bread aisle's getting thin. Just grab the bread. Just get the bread and get out this grocery store. So I feel like that's what the Cowboys did, because they didn't want to play around with the possibility of sitting trying to get him in the second round, and he got swiped. So I like Mozzie Smith. The second round pick in Luke Schoonmaker, I kind of first originally didn't understand it because I was very high on Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot. We had 2 young tight ends, also Sean McKeon. They kind of showed a lot of promise. So I was like, was tight end really a necessity? But then when I kind of analyzed it and broke down the film on it, I understand where the Cowboys are trying to get back to, which is more power football and having more 12 personnel that can block. So 2 tight ends that can block. So then it started to make sense a little bit. So I was good there. Love the DeMarion Overshown pick. That was one of my favorite picks in the draft. And I was so sick when he got hurt and torn his ACL because that kid was coming out with his hair on fire. I talked to him at camp and he said, sir, he was like, they told me if I want that number 0, I got to go out there and earn it. And he's like, I promise you, I'm about to go take it. And man, he was, we honestly should have just put the kid on the shelf because he proved everything that we need to see. So it's very unfortunate. And then Deuce Vaughn's the fun pick that a lot of people are excited about. I got to cover and watch Deuce Vaughn here in the Big 12 because he played at K-State, which is the Kansas Jayhawks' rival. So a lot of people underestimate Deuce Vaughn and think he's like this cute little story. He's kind of a cute little gadget player. Deuce Vaughn was a lead running back for the Kansas State Wildcats. They had no offensive weapons at all. He was a guy. And you go back and watch him versus Alabama, TCU, you name it. Deuce Vaughn was that guy. So overall with the draft, I think the Cowboys did a good job. It wasn't very, elaborate or, you're going to buy a bunch of jerseys as this player, but it's very meat and potatoes, very blue collar, which we need because depth is going to be the most important piece in this 17-game season where the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy are trying to get to a championship. So I was good with the draft.
Yeah. Deuce was definitely my favorite pick of this draft. I think this offense could do a lot with adding him into the mix. I know he's not coming in as the starting running back, but they have some things that they could do with him to incorporate him in early, and just see how that goes. I'm looking forward to Deuce Vaughn. Who would you have, making the best impact going into this season?
The instant impact I think we're going to see will probably be Luke Schoonmaker. I think that's going to be the pick that we see probably this weekend, right? It's actually going to pay dividends. I think he's going to get a lot of reps, and we saw him score in the preseason game. So I think he's going to get a lot of reps, where it might be Cowboys fans might kind of sit back and say, okay, I was wrong. It's like I said, I feel like with Mozzie Smith, it's going to take a minute, and he's going to have impact, but it's going to be in ways that most football fans aren't going to see. If he's eating up 2 blockers and Micah Parsons get the sack, everyone's going to say, whoa, there goes Micah Parsons, right? They're not going to give Mozzie his credit that he deserves. But I think eventually as the season progresses, you'll see the Mozzie impact. But if I had to go with a player who's going to be instant impact, will probably be, Luke Schoonmaker. I think Sunday night, I would probably expect him to probably get about 4 to 5 catches out the gate.
Yeah, and I love that you bring him up, because one of my questions was, when we let Zeke go, I'm like, well, which running back on this roster do you trust to pass block? But when you do bring in other tight ends who can block, that does make a difference in your offensive line and moving the ball down the field. So yeah, I do love that pick for sure. Going forward. Bees, you had something?
Just on the Mozzie Smith side, because that was really one of the that was the pick that I liked the most, just because I watched last season and I've seen us get dragged 4 or 5 yards every time the opposing running back touched the football. And I think that's one spot where if we can shore that up and actually have somebody clog up the middle, that opens up the secondary to be locked down and, and just clamp down on everybody. And that'll put us to like the number 1 defense in the league. And it's funny because I just went to the barbershop yesterday and we were talking and he was asking about the defensive line. When I got out the chair, Neville Gallimore was coming in to get his hair cut. And we were just sitting there talking, and he was asking me, and I said, I like Mozzie and I like Osi. And I was like, I would use Gallimore to like bring in. I think Gallimore is a trade bait. But I wanted to ask you, Tuck, do you think they did enough with the Mozzie Smith pick and with Osi, and then, with our edges to show up that run defense? Or do you think it's going to take maybe to the middle of the season to see dividends from it?
Yeah, I think they did, because one of the key acquisitions that they made right before the draft, right, was bringing Jonathan Hankins back too. So you have Jonathan Hankins, you have Osa, you have Mozzie, and then, Neville Gallimore was kind of one of the guys on the cusp, but they brought him back and they just restructured his deal yesterday, I believe. So, you kind of have those guys in a rotation, and then you have some of the guys who are a hybrid, like a Chauncey Golston or a Junior Fiocco, who was another draft pick that we drafted in this year's class that can play inside and outside. So I feel like Dan Quinn has more than enough wood, to kind of toss in the fire on the defensive line. My one concern is just the linebacker core. I feel like that's where we got really thin, especially with Overshown went down, losing Jabril Cox, letting him go to Washington now. So you're really leaning on the health of LVE, which we all know, I'm not, I wouldn't bet on it. With LVE, you have Damone Clark, you have Devin Harper, and then you have my guy Marquise Bell out of FAMU, who's a second-year guy, kind of working the hybrid safety/linebacker role. But it gets very green at the linebacker core. So I think overall, the front layer of defense is quality, right? Because, of course, you can add Micah Parsons to that room as well. So I feel like we're good there. Linebacker, I would still kind of poke my head around and see what's out there. I think they're going to kind of see how things translate on Sunday night, and they might pursue other options. But overall, I feel real good about the defense, not just from the starting aspect, but also from the depth as well.
Definitely understand that. And that's where I thought they really did good with the draft, because I felt like the team was stacked coming into this season. But like you said, a lot of depth was needed because injury bug flies around, especially it gets to Dallas early and doesn't seem to leave sometimes. So having that depth was good. So that's what I looked at the draft like, because I looked on Twitter. A lot of people was like, "Oh my God, what did we draft him for? What are we doing?" And I'm like, there's guys that play these positions that are not going anywhere, but those guys go down and you get quality, draft picks that come in here, and we watched them during the preseason because most of the starters were sitting on the sideline, and you got to see like an Overshawn. Because I heard a lot of people, oh, he's green, he's a little bit, too early. It's going to take him a year or two to really. And I was like, this guy's jumping off the field like everywhere. I was, he's super fast and he plays super fast. So definitely that was a bummer when he went down, but definitely agree with the depth.
The Cowboys fans, for drafts, they always want toys, right? They just want shiny toys, right? So they get upset. Like sometimes you got to get you some winter clothes, you got to get you a coat, and I feel like that's what this draft was. Like, listen, you're going to need this winter coat because when we get to December, you're going to need a Luke Schoonmaker. You're going to need a Junior Fiocco, just another big physical body that can take some of the pressure off of Sam Williams and some of these other guys. And so, it's just part of it. But yeah, Calvin, we should have went 8 wide receivers, and all sorts of like, all right, man.
So we made it through preseason. Unfortunately, Overshawn did go down. But the Cowboys surprised me when they chose to trade for Trey Lance. What were your takeaways on that trade?
Yeah, so hot take podcast, right? So when the news first broke, like it's funny because my mom, like, she always texts me Cowboy stuff. Like I go to every Cowboys game with my mom. She's a huge Cowboys fan. She raised me, so she's always sending me articles and stuff from Facebook. I'm like, this is old. Like I've already known, So she sent me the Trey Lance. Like we just got Trey Lance, and so I ignored her. Like, yeah, whatever. Something she probably saw on Facebook. And then I kind of put my controller down and looked at it. I'm like, oh, is this real? And I researched it. I was like, oh, we got Trey Lance. And I was ecstatic. When I dropped my first video, I was like, this is a good pickup. I'm saying? Like, this is a championship caliber move because personally for me, my biggest concern was if Dak Prescott goes down again, listen, you did a great job last year. I appreciate your effort, but Cooper Rush, you can't get me to the promised land. If Dak goes down Sunday, knock on wood, season would be over with Cooper Rush. I'm not talking no Super Bowl with Cooper. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, we need to go get a guy. And heck, I was so desperate. I was naming Carson Wentz or, pulling Cam Newton off a pod, like somebody that's played in some big games and some big moments. So Trey Lance was a good pickup. So I was excited about it. Then I watched Jerry Jones' interview and watched him open his mouth, how he didn't talk to any of his scouts. He didn't talk to no coaches. He ain't do no research. He didn't do nothing. He just pulled the trigger. And I was like, oh, this wasn't about football and getting a better, player to kind of come in. This is kind of used as leverage for contract negotiations with Dak. And like I said, this is kind of just bringing that new person to the club, trying to get the person you really want kind of jealous. I'm just like, oh, so that's what we're doing. So it was kind of this weird situation where I was super excited about it, but I hated the real mentality and the pettiness behind the story. But make no mistakes about it. I know a lot of people talk about Trey Lance. He's a bust. He's this, he's that. Yes, he's a very green player because he just hasn't gotten the opportunity, but make no mistakes about it, the kid can play football. And I feel like probably by week 5 or so, you'll hear him as our backup quarterback. And then of course the pollution will be louder, but I think Trey Lance is ready to step in probably week 4, week 5, and he would be perfectly fine. So for me, it's kind of a breath of fresh air because if something unfortunate was to happen to Dak, I'm fully not giving up on the season because we've seen it in numerous instances. We got knocked out of the playoffs last year. Right. Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, who nobody believed in, all of a sudden stepped in for Jimmy G and Trey Lance post-injury and just started running through the NFL. Had a good running game, had a good defense. It knocked us out the playoffs and sent us home. So I think Trey Lance will be able to do that further down the road. So, it's kind of a gift and a curse. I love that we got the player and for the value that we got him, but I hate the pettiness behind making a move. Like, you don't talk to your coach, your scouts, or nothing. Like, you just said just because you can, because you're just trying to I'm not with that. But, here we are. I think Trey Lance is going to be an asset.
Yeah. So, Jerry gone Jerry.
Right.
It's always Jerry way. It's the Jerry way.
So we had some listeners write in a few questions that they wanted to ask for this segment. And you kind of addressed it with the Trey Lance topic for at No Hype Mike on Twitter, but he wanted to get into, a Dak succession plan. do they go the Romo route, or do they look into the 24-25 draft for a solid backup for Dak? Do you think Trey Lance is that guy, or do you see them still kind of searching around in the draft later on and saying, maybe we should find a different angle here?
I think that Trey Lance will get the first crack at it, but when it comes to succession plan, it really comes down to this extension they're trying to work out with Dak Prescott. Because in the Cowboys side, it makes the most sense in the world to extend Dak Prescott. I mean, he's going to be $59 million towards the cap next year, whether he's on the team or not. Well, if he's not on the team, it's going to be 61. So it's like it's in the Cowboys' best interest because you got CeeDee Lamb to take care of. You also got, that line and Micah Parsons to take care of as well. So getting Dak extended is really going to help just the Cowboys in entirety, right? But if they come to a standstill and Dak's like, nope, I'm not coming down, we're going to get back into the market and things really get ugly, then I think that Trey Lance will probably be the succession plan for Dak Prescott, right? So in that case, now here's the other situation. Do I think that Trey Lance is better than Dak Prescott? Absolutely not. Like I'm not a fool, but how did Dak Prescott get here? Let's be honest. We didn't think that Dak Prescott, a 4th round pick, who was pretty much a 4-string quarterback on our roster. You had Romo go down, you had Kellen Moore go down. It was between Dak Prescott and Jamil Showers, and Dak Prescott just took the job, right? So, situations like that happens in the NFL. And if anyone can be a testament to it, you can lose your job due to injury. Wink, wink, Dak Prescott. Heck, wink, wink, Trey Lance, right? So it's like, that's the only way I really see it happening this year is if Dak was to go down, Trey Lance comes out and he gets into an NFC championship. I love Dak. He's on my screensaver. He's right here. I got his jersey right there. But if Trey Lance comes out and gets into an NFC championship, it's Trey Lance season. I'm not, and you got to be serious about that. But, I feel like that's the only way it could happen this year. Now, next year, that's when all the crazy speculation will really pick up because you'll have Trey Lance get a full preseason. We'll be able to watch him in camp preseason, every throw will be, so that's when it's really going to start. But as of right now, I don't think he's going to be a succession plan because I think the Cowboys really want to get Dak extended. That's the first and foremost priority because they have to be honest with you.
Gotcha. Does a Micah extension or even a CeeDee Lamb extension affect Dak's extension?
No, not CeeDee Lamb. I don't think it does. I think that, for CeeDee's aspect, he needs to do it like today. Like if I'm the Cowboys, like I would extend CeeDee now, because the reason why I'm saying that is that the Vikings are picking up steam on extending Justin Jefferson. Mm-hmm. And people have to understand when it comes to contracts, it's not about your performance or whatever is kind of going on. It's just about the market resurging, right? So it's like we saw what Nick Bosa just did today. Well, he just reset the market, right? So he's going to be on top for probably 2 to 3 weeks, and then somebody else is going to come and leapfrog him. It's going to be the same thing at the wide receiver position. So if Justin Jefferson signs to a new record deal, well, if I'm CD's agent, well, we want $1 more than that. It's kind of like the Price is Right, $1 above that. So I would try to get CD done as quickly as possible because the longer you wait, the higher the price will be. And hopefully the Cowboys have learned from their past mistakes in Dak Prescott. You know what I'm saying? If they were to sign Dak Prescott early, they'd have probably had Dak on the hook for a 4-year deal, $23 million, just like Jared Goff was and Carson Wentz. But they sat back and wait till Dak Prescott was signed after Pat Mahomes. Like, it sounds crazy when you say that. So it's like, hopefully the Cowboys won't make that mistake. I don't think CD can impact Dak, but it could be a situation where, like, listen, they're going to extend CD, give him that money, get Micah done. And if Dak's not getting worked out, then they go with Trey Lance. But like I said, Dak's the most important piece.
Got you. At Jatan336 on Twitter asks, we only have one center right now with Tyler Biadasz. In case of an emergency, you have Zach Martin who could move over to that position, but it seems like Dallas hasn't really put up an effort to really address depth on that O-line. How soon do you think they start to address that offensive line depth?
Yeah, so that's a great question because, when I was doing my final 53 roster cuts, I had Matt Farniok to make the roster because he was the backup center. And then you also had Alex Lindstrom, who was a guy who was on practice squad, but he was the third string center. Well, they cut them both. And I'm just like, okay. So I think the plan would be if something unfortunate was to happen to Tyler Biadasz, then they would probably use TJ Bass, who was an undrafted guy from Oregon who I love. Like, I call him the dog catcher because you watch his game versus Georgia. He was just beasting out there versus Jalen Carter. Eagles fans got mad at me, but it is what it is, right? But I feel like he would kind of step in that backup center role. But then once again, you're taking an undrafted guy who has minimal reps. He didn't really play center in college, and it's saying, yo, go play center, who is pretty much the quarterback of the offensive line. It's kind of a gamble. So I would agree to kind of go get some depth. But as of right now, the Cowboys are playing with fire. And unfortunately, we're already seeing it, knock on wood, with Tyler Smith. If Tyler Smith cannot go on Sunday, our offensive line gets shaky very quickly because we have a real good 5 to start off. But after that, it's kind of, Matt Farniok and Chima Udoga, and it's just like, all right, Dak run for dear life. So, hopefully they get it situated. But I agree. I think the depth of the offensive line is concerning because our offensive line hasn't been healthy for years. And so it's like you would think that they would want to, step up and get that insurance policy, but not as of yet.
Yeah, that's
Feel like they
something I
treat
have
the
been screaming for years. Is like, get some depth on that O line, man. It's just not been what it should.
They
But yeah,
calling
go ahead,
Jason
B.
Peters up at 45 years old. Yeah, can you
they treat the O line like like they treated the safety position for
right,
years.
right.
For some reason, like they would never address the safety position for years, and I feel like they do to the O line. And this is the wrong time, especially all these teams are loading up line to go get the quarterback. So, and we already got one guy who looks like Terminator.
Right.
And goes down, and they wake up. And Tyron Smith, like I said, he's bunch of metal on him because they got to put him in plastic immediately
Right.
and bubble wrap most times.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and that's a testament because you mentioned it earlier. It's like, a lot of people talk about the Cowboys were 12-5 and they lost the divisional round. Well, we lose our starting left tackle for majority of the season. I mean, before the season even started, we lose our right tackle. Like, so just by losing your starting left tackle and right tackle, that goes out the window. Then we lose our quarterback. No one talks about us losing our quarterback. Then you lose 2 of our starting corners. Like, there was a lot of, like, we got hit hard with injuries. So see Mike McCarthy still, rise to the occasion and go 12-5. And because we all know this was Jason Garrett era, we'd have packed this season up week 1. As soon as Dak went down with that thumb, I would drop a few draft videos. We just got to work. You know what I'm saying? So it shows, the culture that Mike McCarthy's building. But the offensive line, we lost so much due to injuries. You would think they would say, listen, let's get a real backup plan. And Josh Ball is out. He's already out, and he wasn't even a backup plan to begin with. Matt Farniok hasn't looked well all camp. You have Awesome Richards, who's a rookie. TJ Bass, who's a rookie. We just got to pray. We just got to pray and their offensive line stays healthy.
Yeah, I don't think you want this to turn into a Romo situation again. Luckily, Dak seems more durable than Romo was, but you don't want to wait until he's in his later years to really put a good offensive line together. And then it's over,
Right.
So yeah,
Mia,
I think
you mentioned a good point, right? We lost Zeke too. Like, you got to think of Zeke as an extension of the offensive line too. So it's like, there's, get the ball out quick.
Yeah, and that was my thing
Yeah.
earlier with the running backs who you would trust to pass block. You lose that ability when you let Zeke go. So it's like, who else fills in that void? But hopefully, when you bring in a tight end, that makes things a little easier.
Hey, Tuck, quick question. Do you think with the uncertainty with the O-line, does Dak use his feet more this season? Or is he still going to be more of a stationary, take the sack? Because I've noticed after the injury, he was very much more stationary and not taking off when he's seen, the pocket breaking down. Do you think it's in his head, we don't have too much depth here and he'll use his feet more?
Yeah, I think we will. I think this is not going to be as frequent, right, as we kind of saw back in 2016 when he's young, but I think he's going to use his legs a lot more. And I think it's going to be a testament to Brian Schottenheimer in this offense, because when I was at camp, and of course, Micah Parsons out there just wrecking camp, so you pretty much couldn't get a damn playoff, right? But, I saw Dak using the play action a lot more, rolling out a lot more, like throwing the ball and movement outside the pocket, because I feel like that's where Dak is really at his best. And what I want is for Dak to use his God-given ability and his instincts. And I remember it was the year after the ankle injury, so 2021, right? And we're playing against Atlanta. I remember when he took off for us at Atlanta and he dipped his shoulder and trucked the guy, and Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore yanked him out the game and pulled him out the game. It's like, don't you ever do that again. And he was like, sometimes I got to show that, I'm a big MFer, like Dak, like people think Dak is like some small, like he's a big boy, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just part of Dak's game. And I feel like maybe you don't see it throughout the season, but in the playoffs, if we're in San Francisco or Philly or wherever the hell we are, and it's game on the line, bro, you got to go. You got to go get the extra, like do whatever it takes. And I think that we're going to see Dak Prescott do that a lot more. Like, listen, just go get the win. Just go get the win. I mean, heck, we're going to sit back and see Daniel Jones take off on Sunday night. As soon as Micah Parsons get off, he going to take off. So Dak needs to do the same thing. And I think this offense is really going to help him. It's like, listen, read your first read your second read. If it's not there, just get up out of there. Like, just continue to get 4 yards, 5 yards a clip. Just go down. I repeat, go down and live for another play. So I think we'll see it a lot more. Dak Prescott using his legs. Maybe that's why he got his whole leg tattooed up, because he's about to use it. I don't know.
On the defense side of the ball, Bees, you had a few questions?
Yeah, I do. When you were at camp, you said you was talking to Micah Parsons. I want to know, did he speak on anything about changing his I guess speed? Because I noticed a lot of teams saw what the Eagles were doing with RPO, and they started mimicking that. And it seemed like they were telling them, let Micah go, because he's not reacting quick enough on the RPO, and they're able to slip by him and let him into the backfield. And by the time he's reacted, they've already been gone. Did he speak on anything about that, about noticing that, or did he? Does anybody mention that to him to get his his thoughts on that? Because I just noticed it kind of took him out of the season, like the middle of the season. He was kind of quiet. It looked like teams realized, okay, we can let him go and let him blow right past us because he's so quick, and then let the other defenders have to deal with us, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So I just talked to Micah briefly, and the thing that he's very adamant about, he doesn't just want to be defensive player of the year. Like, he's locked in on some MVP stuff. Like, Micah has a different mindset than a lot of Cowboys players that we kind of seen. Like, you got 88 on, right? It reminds me a lot of Dez. Like, he wants a Super Bowl, he wants MVP. Like, that's all that he is after. And like, from the moment camp, I don't care if it was just like walkthroughs, Micah has been on 10. Like, he's been on 10 all camp. And, as far as the speed, because he put on a little bit more size, he hasn't lost the speed. First step, everything is there. I think where his focal point was being able to, when he gets chipped and double teamed, because a lot of times the offensive line is going to shift things his way, just get him bumped, like to be able to sustain that and still stay and keep his containment and still get pressure. So I saw a lot of bull rushing from Micah Parsons versus in the past 2 years. It's been a lot of finesse, just quick swipe, just using his God-given ability. He's been actually, and this is not just the backup, like this is Terrence Steele, this is, Tyron, everybody's getting whipped, like driving them back. And so I think he's just playing with a different motor. But I expect a big season from Micah. Like, my one thing, and I said this in my film breakdown, I just wanted Micah Parsons to be a chess piece, not an edge rusher. Like, yes, he can rush off the edge, but I feel like when you have to come out there as Daniel Jones and locate where the hell is 11, that changes things versus knowing he's going to be on the right side. Because I watched the film of when we played the Giants last Thanksgiving, right? Well, Andrew Thomas, like, he's still a good tackle. He's one of the top 5 left tackles in the NFL. It's like, granted, I love my guy Micah. He's back there in the wall, but, I don't want to take that 50-50 matchup. Like, put him on the right side with Evan Neal, who's struggling. You got to be able to move him around. And I feel like that's when Micah is at his best, where it's like he's coming through the middle, the edges, the everywhere. He's all over the field, just fully in hunt mode. So I think Dan Quinn is going to use him in that capacity. Now, from Micah's standpoint, he just saw when Nick Bosa just got paid. He wants to get edge rusher money, not linebacker money. So I understand that. But for the Cowboys standpoint, just from our defensive aspect, he's much better where you have to come out and locate 11. Because if he's on the left, right, you might have to shift to the left. And then you have DeMarcus Lawrence getting one-on-one pass rushing versus either right. You might have Sam Williams, and he just opens up so much for our defense. But Micah Parsons, y'all, I feel like he's just gonna be on a tear out the gate.
Okay, definitely. And speaking of Sam Williams, with his 2 infractions so far that he's gone through, is the team still in on him? Because I see a lot of upside in him on the field. But as far as with the 2 incidents that he's had, have you heard anything where the team is kind of sour on him or have him on notice that these things can't keep happening? Has it been where he seems to be remorseful, or it was just 2 hiccups and we can look past it?
Yeah, I think from the Cowboys standpoint, we're just being honest. If you can play, they'll ignore a lot, And if we're being fully transparent, when I scouted Sam Williams back at Ole Miss in the draft, right, I gave it a C minus. I thought I gave him a D, but I gave him a C minus for that pick, and everyone was like, "Tuck, why did you give that pick when you talk so highly about the player?" I'm like, because the player, he can play. Like Sam Williams is a dog. He's a beast. But he had so much off the field issues going all the way back to high school. It's like, can I really trust you with the keys to the kingdom? So the Cowboys, I hope they knew all these red flags. If little old me knew, like he had all these red flags going into the draft, which is why I think he slid to us in the 2nd round. So it's like, as long as it isn't too outstanding and too big, I think they're still going to ride with Sam. But it's the little habits, right? It's just the little habits. Like boom, he had the injury in camp, and then he had the I think he had like the reckless driving last year or something like that. And then the very first night you get back from camp, you got a pistol and a vape. Like what I'm saying, it's just those little things of growing up that you really have to do before the Cowboys can hand you the keys of the kingdom. And I feel like what Sam Williams really halted was, I personally thought that Dorrance Armstrong might be a trade bait piece, that they could have probably moved on for Dorrance Armstrong and maybe brought another asset in, but I can't trust Sam. I don't know if he's going to get suspended. I don't know what he's going to be doing. So, it's not just Sam, it's all players. You just got to grow up, but make no mistakes about it. Sam Williams is, he's electric out there on the field. He just has to get the off the field stuff in his head and realize the opportunity that he has in front of him, being one of the forces of the Dallas Cowboys. But could he be Randy Gregory Jr.? Probably. Probably.
How confident are you
Absolutely.
in the cornerback unit going into the season? You lose Anthony Brown, you lose Kelvin Joseph. For what it's worth, you bring in Stephon Gilmore and things like that. What are you thinking so far?
I would have been like at an 8.5 if you were asking this question last week, but now I'm at a 10. And the reason why I'm at a 10 is because the addition of Jordan Lewis being back. So, you get Jordan Lewis back, who's another veteran guy. He's a guy that I love. I feel like Jordan Lewis is very underappreciated, when it comes to Cowboys fans, right? But it's like, so you have Deron Bland, you have Trayvon Diggs, and you have Stephon Gilmore. And I feel like having Gilmore just in your cornerback room, it's going to uplift everybody. Like, Trayvon's is going to get better. Bland's going to get better. And also Jay Lou's going to get better. And so I love our corners right now. I just don't think you'll see, some of the miscommunications in the plays that we saw last year, like Anthony Brown and, he's a good guy. I wish him the best. I think he's in Cincy or something like that right now, but it's just like
Cincy.
My film breakdown. It's like, man, there was oftentimes he's just getting dunked on. Like there was a play, I think it was Darius Slayton last Thanksgiving. They just closed his eyes and pressed square and he just dunked on, it's just like, so I feel like you're not going to get that with Gilmore. You're going to have a guy who's very cerebral where you're going to have to pick your poison. So now you add you had Micah Parsons and you have Sam Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence getting that pressure, but also you got some ball hawks back there in the secondary. It's really going to make you hesitant. So I love our secondary. I love our corners. I love our safeties too. You also got some young pieces in Eric Scott Jr., who I call my cousin because he lives in my own backyard. Like he lives like his family is like 3 blocks from me. So we family. So Eric Scott, he's a young guy who is kind of an unknown, but he's just very, talented, physical, has a nasty mean streak. And then, we got the new guy, Noah. I'm not going to pronounce his name because I'm not going to butcher it. But he's just an athletic guy. He can do a lot of different things. So I feel like where our corners are as of right now, we're good because you also have Israel Mukwamu, who's a safety, but he can also play corner because he played corner at South Carolina. So he gives you that aspect. and he got reps in the playoffs versus San Fran as well. So he will be a guy that he can play out outside or inside if need be. So I feel very good about our cornerback depth in our room.
All right. So let's get into week 1. Playing the Giants, of course. Keys to victory for the Cowboys.
Yeah, so keys to victory. I feel like this is going to be a good game. Even though it's kind of like, I was joking on Twitter, but it's like we go from Tom Brady 2 years in a row to Daniel Jones. I'm like, that's kind of a drop off, but it is what it is. We're going to make it work. But, I feel like the Giants, what I really focused on was their last game in the divisional versus the Eagles, right? Because they got their teeth punched in. And typically when that happens, that is your focal point all off season, getting tougher. That's what you're focusing on. So I feel like for them, they're going to come in with something to prove. They're going to be at home. It's going to be Sunday Night Football. Keys to victory defensively versus their offense is that you have to rush Daniel Jones, but you have to be strategic with your containments. And what I mean, you can't just go kamikaze. And what I was explaining in our film session was that Cowboys defense, they ain't played all preseason. They've been sitting on the sideline, foaming at the mouth. So they're going to come out there fired up, and they're going to be aggressive. They're going to be coming. Like, I feel like the Giants are going to key off of that and use their aggressiveness against them, using the screens, using those quick draws, just getting those, wide receivers out in quick flat areas to get them out in space. So you got to be strategic. Like, you can't just come out there, hair on fire. Offensively, it'll be the fun point, but I think the key things I'm looking for is to establish identity. And Brian Schottenheimer has been very big about that, getting the run game started. Like, we want to run when we want to. And even if people know, like, we want to be a run team. And I feel like that is going to help everything. It's going to help Dak Prescott with the play action, the RPOs that we talked about earlier, but also it's going to put the defense where they have to kind of come up in the in the box a little bit. And this year, because it's not Dennis Houston and Noah Brown at wide receiver, you might get torched if you come up too close. So it's like, I feel like we actually have the weapons to make people pay a little bit. And also I'm expecting Michael Gallup to really have a big year, because watching Michael Gallup, even though he's kind of an unsung hero, wasn't talked about much at camp, he looks fully recovered from his ACL. So we now have a 3-headed monster when it comes to our wide receiver core. And then once again, you sprinkle in those 2 young tight ends and Jake Ferguson and, Luke Schoonmaker. I think that, we're really going to get the run game involved. Dak Prescott, easy throws, quick throws, get the ball out of his hands. I even speak about Kevontae Turpin and let them use their God-given ability. Dak does not have to be the hero this year that he was last year. Just get the ball to Brandon Cooks or CeeDee Lamb's hands and just let them go get it, because they can definitely go get it. So I'm excited about Sunday night. All the studying and analysis and conversations, it all ends. Now it's up to the team to go out there and put their best foot forward and play football.
All right. So you bring up Schottenheimer, who's now OC. What were your thoughts on bringing him in as that? Because I know Twitter went crazy. As far as mixed reviews, I would say, but a lot so negative more than positive.
Yeah, with Brian Schottenheimer, I love it, right? And he was the very first thing that stuck out to me when I was out there in Oxnard, because it felt like football. Like, we have an OC, even though, Mike McCarthy's going to be our offensive coordinator, right? It's really going to be kind of Schottenheimer hand in hand with them. But he felt like football, the energized, swagger, like it just, like what a football coach should feel like, versus Kellen Moore, just like, hey guys, you can't fire me up. And so you're seeing our offense now play with a little bit of swagger. Like, the Dak Prescott thing that kind of went viral with Dak and Trayvon Diggs, like, our offense was out there chirping, talking too. Like, there's a little chippiness with their offense, right? And I always say, players, they always mirror their coaching staff. And so there was a play that really stuck out when I was the first day of camp, where they were running a really simple drill. It's kind of a simple warm-up drill. And, they're kind of the wide receivers are running their routes, and, Dak and the quarterbacks are dropping back passing. And, CeeDee Lamb, being cute with his one leg up, and doing whatever them kids do these days, right? Goes up there and makes a cute little one-headed catch. The crowd goes, ooh. Brian Schottenheimer's like, no, on the post, you bend 10 and bend. Like, you're going up the field too much. And he, like, stopped practice, brought everybody in. And it wasn't like he was trying to show CeeDee Lamb up, but he was trying to show CeeDee Lamb, like, listen, this is where we're expecting you to bend, because if you don't, it's going to lead to those interceptions that we saw last year. And he was like, my bad, coach, my bad. And then everybody really just got back to work, like Jalen Tolbert. So it's like, it feels like a football coach. I'm excited about Schottenheimer, and I just feel like our offense is going to have some attitude this year. It's always been our defense for the past few years under Dan Quinn, where that's the toughness, that's the hat to the back, and that's the the swagger with Jaron Curse, and the list goes on and on. I think we're going to see it a lot more with our offense, where it's like kind of a different attitude, which I'm excited to see.
Nice, nice. So, last question, and this one was from at No Hype Mike as well. Is McCarthy out should the Cowboys fall short this season?
It's a good question. It depends on how short. Like it depends on how our season really looks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say, for instance, I know ESPN ran some damn similar the other day when we going to like a 4-win team. I'm like, I don't know what kind of analytics y'all got built in that system, but it is what it is. So if that's the case, yeah, Mike McCarthy is out. Everybody has to be out, right? But I think that Mike McCarthy has a longer leash than a lot of people want to give him, because they finally let him renovate the entire building. Like Mike McCarthy got rid of Kellen Moore. He brought in his offensive line coach and Mike Solari. Like, what I'm saying? Like he is fully decorating the entire house. So I feel like the Cowboys are going to sit back and say, okay, let's see what you got, big man. Now, 2 years, I would say probably take a look at it. It would have to be bad for the Cowboys to move on from Mike McCarthy, I think, because I don't think Dan Quinn wants to be a head coach. I mean, because, luckily we've been blessed to get him back. I don't think he wants that role. Sean Payton's gone. So who are you going to go get? You're going to go get some college hotshot coach and bring him in and let him ruin Dak Prescott and start like, so I just think that Mike McCarthy is going to be the guy. And the thing that I love the most about Mike McCarthy is that the culture is changing. But as a Cowboys fan, all I've been wanting to see is, can you stack success? So we're 12-5 in 2021, lost in the wild card. Okay, boom, 12-5 again, won the wild card, lost in the no, stack on top of that and be able to build. That's how you build a championship contender. So, I think Mike McCarthy has a longer leash than a lot of people, really think. But of course, he can go out there and completely blow this whole thing up, because if they get rid of Kellen Moore and our offense falls in the trash, yeah, Jerry might have to come down. Jerry might come downstairs. You know what I'm saying? He just traded away, a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance and talking to nobody. So I'm sure he can get you up out of there, Mike, without making any calls. So that's the only way I would see that the Cowboys will move on from Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I agree. I think they would have to see some drastic regression for him to get out of there now, or going into next season or anything. Final hot takes. Bees, you got anything?
I'm just waiting. I'm anticipating Sunday night. I think I just want them to go in there and kick the Giants' teeth, and I just, it's personal for me. I got too many New York friends that want to send me, they've been sending me memes all summer. Cowboys eliminated from the playoffs and the season ain't even started yet, different things like that. So, but outside of that, I just wanted to ask one question. What do you think the window is for this particular team as far as championship aspirations? You think it's 2 more seasons or this season and next season?
Well, I'll say, damn, their window, my window. I want it now. I was tired of waiting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But honestly, we are in a good situation now with the way that the deals kind of worked out, where the window kind of got open, because you locked in Trayvon Diggs, you locked in, well, you have Michael Gallup, but you have a lot of these players, Terrence Steele, like you have a lot of the kind of the core pieces that you can kind of just plug around them, for the next 3 to 4 years once we get our quarterback taken care of. So I think 3 to 4 year window is open, but my biggest thing I don't want to see is we're sitting back, because think about this, y'all, like Dak Prescott is the old veteran in the locker room. It just felt like he was a baby. Like I really remember like him and Zeke like carrying water guns, like in club, like, and now he's the old veteran. So I don't want to sit back and see, Micah Parsons with a receding hairline thinking, damn, we're in year 8 with Micah, like we haven't even gotten there. So, that's my one thing. But, I feel like the Cowboys have everything in-house to finally get to the hump. As we talked about when we first started the show, look at the quarterbacks. Like we got one of the best quarterbacks. So it's just like putting everything to rest, putting everything behind them, one game at a time. Because what really happened last year, even though we lost to San Francisco, we lost in the playoffs when we lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, when we lost to Green Bay, like those two little stupid games. Think about that. We're now the number one seed in the playoffs, and now we have Daniel Jones coming to Dallas, for that, what I'm saying? So it's like those things add up. And so what I really want to see for the Cowboys is just consistency, a real championship mindset when you don't have those games where we're all sitting here thinking, dang, the Rams is beat, like the Rams, we just lost to the Rams, like those games. Like I want to get rid of that. Like every game, just be locked in, focus, handle business. And I feel like the Cowboys should be right there, in the playoff season, if healthy, to go to the NFC Championship, but not the Super Bowl. But I'll say this, Cowboys Nation, I'm already booked for Vegas. So I'm going whether they go or not. Super Bowl in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Like I always said, I would never go to a Super Bowl unless the Cowboys are going. I got tired of waiting. I
hear you. Definitely.
Yeah, like Vegas, Super Bowl, I can't pass it down. So hopefully the Cowboys will meet me there too. So
hopefully they will. Any other final hot takes, maybe a score prediction or anything for this week, for the season? Anything you got?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have any predictions. I think the Cowboys should win this game, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. But, my message to a lot of Cowboys fans is just don't let people steal your fandom, right? Because I feel like so many Cowboys fans are just so afraid to believe, like, oh, well, Tuck, I'll believe once we get to a Super Bowl. Man, it's too late. You know what I'm saying? Like, you better not hop in my channel talking about we them boys and you didn't bash or 2020 week. Like, I'm not trying to hear all that. So, I understand we get trolling and made fun of and all, and you're kind of afraid to lose. But, I tell people when it's us against the world, there's no better feeling. Like I was out there in Tampa when everyone has losing to Tom Brady and the Cowboys can't play on grass and they haven't won a home playoff game since 19, like all of that, right? And then when it hits, it feels different. We were jumping on, like nobody could tell me anything in Tampa. I own the, it's like I own the place. So it's like, keep that, be a Cowboys fan, be a fan, ride for your team, whether you're at home, at the games, like be prideful about what you represent and everything's going to work out. And if it don't, we're going to come back and do draft content and roll up our sleeves and try to fix it, So it's like, what do you have to be afraid of? So Cowboys Nation, like I said, Sunday is going to kick off, have fun, enjoy it. What it's really about to me, even though the team is just extra, it's just about the fan base, Cowboys Nation. That's what I love. Like, I can't wait to get back to AT&T Stadium and have my tailgate spot up and, everybody out and shaking hands and, drinking Cowboy Ritas and being, so it's like that's what's fun to me. It's about the community, the people, with inside it, not everybody inside it, but a lot of people inside it. It really just makes it fun. And so it's like, yeah, you support your team and let's go get this 6th championship, Cowboys Nation.
All right, there you have it. Well, thank you so much, J Tuck, for joining us for this segment. Bees, thank you as well. Tuck, let us know where we can find you at.
Yeah, so you can find me on all social media platforms at JTuck151. That's Twitter, Instagram. I'm on TikTok. Cowboys TikTok gets mad at me because I'll drop videos for like 2 weeks and I'll just like disappear for like 3 months. So follow me on TikTok. I'm gonna do a lot better. But also my YouTube channel. That's where you can find me the most. CFO Sports. Come by. We do a lot of film breakdowns. Each week we break down our opponents. So yesterday we just broke down today we just broke down the Giants offense. Tomorrow we'll break down their defense. We'll have guests from the Giant side and reporters from each side come on every week and just have fun. It's all about educating the community. So, turn that notification bell so you don't miss out because it's definitely going to be a fun season.
All right, there y'all have it. Thank you again. We'll look forward to tapping into your content for sure. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Hot Take Season. We'll be back next week with some more content. Y'all be blessed.
Have a good one.